So update 1.5.0 is here for the finals. It is probably the biggest update for the game yet, and today I'm going to go quickly over all of the patch notes for you guys to fill you in on everything you need to know about the update. If you're interested in the finals and you are interested in more content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is plenty more content on the way, but with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. Now, the first thing of note, and probably the reason that this is the biggest update so far, is that there is actually a new limited time mode in update 1.5, and that is called Solo Banquet. Now, I'm sure you guys have all played Banquet. It is probably the least played mode in this game, to be honest, but it is still a fair bit of fun, and this is obviously just a solo version of that, meaning that instead of 4 teams of 3, it is actually just 12 teams of individual players. So I haven't had a chance to play yet. It is unfortunately like 3 AM as I'm recording this in Australia, and there's just not enough players, so I can't judge whether it is fun or not just yet. I've actually heard a lot of people complaining about it, to be honest, but that is just how it goes on the internet, so I'll have to give it a try myself, but it does sound very interesting. And to be honest, I do enjoy playing solo sometimes, so I'm very keen to try it out. And at the end of the day, it is a limited time mode, so even if it sucks, then I don't personally think that really matters too much. It is an experimental mode. It even literally says that in the menus, and to me it is just cool that they're kind of adding new stuff like that. I would like to see some stuff that is, I guess, a bit more different than the key game modes, because obviously this is no different than Banquet. It's just 1 player instead of 3, but either way, it is a cool addition to the game nonetheless. Now, outside of the limited time mode, there is still also plenty of balance changes and tweaks, as well as bug fixes and stuff like that. They generally tend to be pretty brief about what they're actually changing, but I have found the patch notes that have all of the actual details as well, so I'll kind of skip between some of the more basic stuff and then the actual details where we need them to. They've mentioned that you can no longer charge slam while stationary and stealing and extraction. They've also mentioned the grapple hook will no longer attach to objects attached to carryables, which is a bit of a mouthful. As far as I know, that means that you could actually stick things onto the barrels, for example, throw the barrel and then actually grapple onto the item that was stuck onto it, which was a workaround to not being able to attach to the barrel itself. So they have now fixed that. Personally, I thought that was pretty funny to see people doing that, but it is probably for the best when it comes to the balancing. Next up is a pretty important one. They've said multiple damage, cooldown, and activation cost changes for weapons and gadgets. The mesh shield health has been decreased. Now, in the, I guess, public patch notes in terms of what they post to Twitter and Reddit and stuff like that, it doesn't say the actual details in terms of the stats there. I have dug around on their website though, and it does say here that the mesh shield health has been decreased from 1100 down to 1000, and so that is very good. The mesh shield is obviously, I would say, the best single specialization in this entire game, and so a nerf to that is definitely warranted. I'm not sure it's even big enough, to be honest, but it is a good starting place nonetheless. In there, they've also mentioned some changes to the cloaking device. There is an increased activation cost from 1 second to 2 seconds. I think that just essentially means it will take longer to actually activate the ability. And then they've also increased the minimum required charge time to activate from 1.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds. And as far as I'm aware, that essentially means that you need to have more of the charge to be able to actually use the ability. They've also changed the recon sensors as well, increasing the activation cost from 1 second to 1.5 seconds. And then they've decreased the minimum charge time to activate from 2.5 seconds to 2 seconds. There are then some smaller changes here, stuff like the settings screen now has a scope zoom sensitivity multiplier that affects the tracking dart and the SR84. Tournaments will now be unlocked after completing 1 round instead of 12, and then a pretty vague one in that Las Vegas has been updated for more realistic destruction. Now, they've also made some changes to what we refer to as the nuke, putting like C4 or breach charges on a barrel and throwing that at someone and then blowing it up. It says here, deployable explosives such as C4, breach charges, and explosive mines will now add mass to throwable objects, causing them to travel less far when thrown. So that is very good to see. That was becoming a little bit overpowered, especially when it comes to tournaments where you can kind of die instantly and you're, you know, it's a lot worse of a situation than a public match or a, I guess, quick match. So that is very, very good to see. They've also made some relatively decent changes to the weapons in the game in terms of like damage stats and stuff like that. It says here the flamethrower has had its damage increased from 28 to 30. The LH1 has had its damage increased from 47 to 49. The M11 has had its recoil pattern updated to make the weapon easier to control. The SH1900 shotgun has had its damage decreased from 12 to 10 damage per pallet, which is actually a huge nerf. I know 12 to 10 doesn't sound like that much, but obviously that weapon deals a hell of a lot more damage than 12, because this is speaking about per pallet. So that is actually still nearly a 20% nerf on the light classes shotgun, and that's obviously very, very handy alongside the changes like I mentioned earlier to the cloak device. This is going to stop the, I guess, overpowered cloak from running rampant in this game. The M60 has had its damage increase from 21 to 22. They've done some changes to the riot shield just in terms of like the, I guess, where it wasn't sometimes blocking bullets when it should be, and vice versa. Sometimes it was blocking bullets when it shouldn't be. They've essentially just made it a bit more consistent. And then lastly of note, they've also increased the damage of the V9S from 35 to 36. That pistol was already pretty solid, so that is very interesting to see. Hopefully it doesn't become overpowered, but it's only, you know, 1 damage more per shot, so it shouldn't be too bad. There's then also a bunch more changes. I'll kind of just show these on screen. Scrolling down, I'm not going to read all of them because they're all very, very minor, but there is still a lot of other stuff in here. I will try and link the patch notes if I can remember, so you guys can read it all if you want. But like I said, all of this stuff at the bottom is not really that important. It's more just like minor issues. Most of the stuff I haven't even come across these issues myself. So it's a pretty damn solid update in my opinion. We're obviously still pretty early on in the game, and as far as I'm aware, I feel like the game feels pretty well placed. There's no crazy bugs. Yeah, there's some balancing to do and stuff like that, but I don't expect, you know, enormous updates and stuff this early in the game. So pretty damn good update in my opinion. I'm very keen to try out the solo banquet mode. There's also some changes to the store as well, so if you guys are interested in spending money on the game, which I've been wanting to since launch, but there's just been nothing to really be worth it in my opinion, then they've also made some changes to the store. Hopefully there is some cool skins in there. But with that being said, I'm going to get out there and try and find a game of the solo banquet mode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there in the arena.